The old man's hands trembled as he picked up the broken crutch from his workbench, not from age but from the weight of what it represented. In 40 years of running his small repair shop on the corner of 5th and Main, Marcus Webb had fixed thousands of things: bicycles, chairs, radios, you name it. But nothing had ever broken his heart quite like the sight of that young woman limping through his door on a cold November morning, her makeshift splint of duct tape and wooden rulers barely holding her mobility aid together. She had no money, she'd said. Just hope that maybe, just maybe, someone in this world still cared enough to help a stranger. Marcus had simply nodded, taken the crutch, and told her to come back in an hour. He didn't know then that this one act of simple human decency would change everything, not just for him, but for an entire community that had forgotten what it meant to look out for one another. The November wind cut through downtown Portland like a knife that morning, and Marcus was already behind on his bills. The small shop that his father had opened in 1962 was barely scraping by in an age of Amazon deliveries and throwaway culture. People didn't repair things anymore, they just bought new ones. But Marcus couldn't bring himself to close the doors. This shop was more than a business, it was a landmark, a memory, a promise he'd made to his late father to keep the family legacy alive. When the bell above the door chimed, Marcus looked up from the ancient radio he was rewiring to see her. She couldn't have been more than 25, with dark circles under her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and struggles he could only imagine. Her coat was thin, inappropriate for the weather, and she maneuvered awkwardly on a crutch that looked like it had been through a war. "I'm sorry to bother you," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know you probably don't do this kind of thing, but I saw your sign that says you fix things, and I was wondering." She held up the crutch, and Marcus could see where the aluminum had cracked, where someone, likely her, had tried desperately to keep it functional with whatever materials she could find. "I'm between jobs right now," she continued, words tumbling out in a rush of embarrassment. "I had an accident 3 months ago, and the insurance only covered one pair of crutches. This one broke last week, and I've been trying to make do, but..." Her voice cracked. "I have a job interview tomorrow. It's the first real shot I've had in months, and I can't show up like this. I can't afford to miss this chance." Marcus set down his tools and walked over to her, his own knees protesting with each step. He was 72 years old, and some days he felt every single year. "Let me see that," he said gently, taking the crutch from her hands. "I don't have much money," she said quickly. "Maybe $5. I know it's not enough, but I could come back and pay the rest when I..." "Don't worry about it," Marcus interrupted, examining the damage. The crack was significant, but not unfixable. "Come back in an hour. I'll have it ready for you. But I need to know how much." "No charge," Marcus said firmly, meeting her eyes. "Consider it an investment in your future. You go get yourself a hot coffee and warm up. That interview is going to go great." The young woman, she'd introduced herself as Sarah Chen, stared at him with tears welling in her eyes. "I don't understand. Why would you do this for a stranger?" Marcus smiled, thinking of his own daughter, Emma, who lived 3,000 miles away now with her fancy corporate job in New York. "Because someone did it for me once, a long time ago. And because it's what we're supposed to do for each other." After Sarah left, Marcus got to work. He reinforced the crack with a steel sleeve, carefully fitted and welded to ensure it would hold. He replaced the worn rubber grip at the top, finding a piece in his supplies that was softer, more comfortable. He even adjusted the height mechanism that had been sticking, making sure every detail was perfect. This wasn't just a repair job, it was an act of faith in humanity, in the idea that good things could still happen to good people. When Sarah returned, she tested the crutch and nearly cried again. "It's better than when I first got it," she said. "How can I ever thank you?" "Just pay it forward someday," Marcus replied. "When you're back on your feet, help someone else who needs it." That should have been the end of the story. A nice moment, a kind gesture, two people briefly connected before going their separate ways. But life, as Marcus would learn, had other plans. 3 weeks passed. Business remained slow. Marcus had to dip into his personal savings to make the December rent. He was contemplating the unthinkable. Maybe it was time to close the shop, to admit defeat and spend his remaining years in his small apartment, watching the world go by. Then, on a Friday afternoon, a camera crew showed up at his door. "Are you Marcus Webb?" A young producer asked, practically bouncing with excitement. The man who repaired Sarah Chen's crutch. Marcus was confused, then alarmed. Is she okay? Did something happen? She's more than okay, the producer said, grinning. She got the job, a position at a major tech company. And she told her story at a company meeting, about how a kind stranger helped her when she had nothing. Her boss was so moved that he posted about it on social media, and it went viral. Mr. Webb, you're about to become famous. I don't want to be famous, Marcus protested. I just fixed a crutch. But the internet had already decided otherwise. Within days, Sarah's story had been shared millions of times. People from all over the country were touched by the simple act of kindness, hungry for proof that goodness still existed in an often cynical world. Then the donations started coming in. A crowdfunding page appeared. Sarah had created it herself, determined to repay the man who had helped her. Marcus Webb saved more than my crutch that day, she wrote. He saved my hope. Let's show him that kindness creates more kindness. The goal was $5,000 to help keep the repair shop open. Within 24 hours, it had raised $50,000. Within a week, $200,000. People weren't just donating money, they were sharing their own stories of times strangers had helped them, times they had helped others. Local news picked up the story. Then national news. Marcus found himself sitting across from morning show hosts, uncomfortable in a borrowed suit, trying to explain that he hadn't done anything special. But that's exactly why it matters, one interviewer told him. You did something good simply because it was the right thing to do. No cameras, no recognition, no reward. That's the kind of world we all want to live in. The money allowed Marcus not just to save his shop but to expand it. Sarah, now thriving in her new career, became his business partner. Together, they transformed the repair shop into a community center, a place where people could learn to fix things, where trades and skills were passed down, where anyone could come for help regardless of their ability to pay. On the one-year anniversary of that cold November morning, Marcus stood in the renovated shop, surrounded by volunteers, apprentices, and neighbors. Sarah stood beside him, no longer needing crutches, her own journey of healing complete. My father used to say that every broken thing is just an opportunity to make something stronger, Marcus told the gathered crowd. I thought he was just talking about objects, about repairs. But he was talking about people, about community, about us. Sarah squeezed his hand. You gave me more than a fixed crutch that day, she said. You gave me back my dignity, my hope, my belief that people still care. Marcus smiled, his eyes misty. And you gave an old man a reason to believe that what he does matters. That's a fair trade, I'd say. As the celebration continued around them, Marcus thought about the mysterious arithmetic of kindness, how a single act could multiply into something far greater than the sum of its parts. He had fixed a crutch for nothing, asking for no payment, expecting no reward. She had returned with everything, not just money, but renewed purpose, connection, and proof that one person's simple decency could inspire thousands more.